Hey guys, this video is long overdue because I'm on vacation, so I've been going out a lot, and I have school starting in a couple weeks. And I'm in the middle of two extremes, but anyways, we have a new viability ranking slate. There's some bigger changes this time around, and I'll be taking on the role of explaining them. Starting with Dragonite rising from S- to S. What else could be said about Dragonite at this point? It's the perfect setup sweeper and glue Pokemon wrapped into one. It patches up numerous holes in the builder while being able to be customized for whatever matchup it wants. Because of how consistent options like Hatterini and Treads are at keeping rocks off, Dragonite has an easier time running the cheaper sets, like Loaded Dice Encore or Leftovers Dragon Dance, or the Honest Choice Band variant. Next, we have Ogerpon going from A+ to S-. Now, to explain why Ogerpon-Wellspring rose, here's audio of me crashing out about Ogerpon with mic quality that rivals CTC.
Okay, bear with me. Wanna know why Ogerpon-Wellspring rose from A+ to S-? On top of being a wall breaker with noteworthy amounts of defensive utility, Ogerpon-Wellspring is a piece of shit. Let's start with this move. This is a base 100 physical water type move. Normally moves like this have some kind of drawback, like imperfect accuracy or a common immunity, but Ivy Cudgel has none. It's perfectly accurate, and for some reason, the move doesn't make contact, even though it's akin to Power Whip and Razor Shell, which do make contact. On top of that, it has a high crit chance, cause Game Freak thought this move wasn't bullshit enough. Wanna see something? Take a good look at this image. If you don't know what this is Ogerpon, 2-hit KOing Toxapex, one of the most physically bulky waters in the franchise, with a +2 resisted Terra Water Ivy Cudgel. And because the mask gives it essentially over 140 base attack, Wellspring doesn't even need a grass move or coverage to break. No Terra, Grass, Water, or Dragon is gonna stop Ogerpon-Wellspring from two-shotting that wall you put in front of her. So unless you have a dual resist, or a water immunity, or a Dondozo, Ogerpon can get away with flicking this one button. Because of how broken this one button is, Ogerpon can free up 3 slots for whatever the fuck it wants. Because Game Freak decided that this cheap fuck should have everything. This Pokemon has everything. And Game Freak caters to her. They changed the rules for her so that she can win way more often. Give her one of the best offensive and defensive dual typings in the game with 2 perfectly good grass stab options. Oh, it's not good enough. Let's give her coverage to hit dragon types. Let's give her Encore, let her pivot and knock items off. Give her the option to heal. Give it fucking taunt. Give it a free special defense boost whenever it terrestrializes, so she could avoid being killed by Draco Meteors and shit. But wait, she's not good enough. Let Ogerpon set spikes, because Gen 9 wasn't already saturated with spike setters. Actually, just give her Sketch in Generation 10 so she can do whatever the fuck she wants, because fuck you! Whenever I have thoughts thinking, oh, Wellspring isn't that bad, just out-offense it, just get hazards off, I am immediately reminded that Wellspring is a fucking smug-ass, dumb-ass, cheap-ass fuck! Brainless button mashing to a T. And whenever the prospect of banning Wellspring is brought up, people get up on their high horses and complain that if we boot Ogerpon out of the tier, then balance teams will become too strong. Oh, what will we do when the Zap King Lu meta takes over? How will we be able to stop fat teams without our precious Ogerpon-chan? Use your Glow King! Use your Kiram! Use your Darkrai! Use your Hazard and your Knockoff! Use your Primarina! Use your Tornadus, Deoxys, Spectre Raging Bolt, SD Gliscor, Scarlet Freckle Dango, Hydrapple, Heatran, Ursaluna, and Hoopa Unbound. You have more than enough options to break! Recovery moves have 8 PP! Hit guys to the decided to use their own Ogerpon. This thing has one of the most spammable moves in the tier. She has perfect coverage. She has 19 different support options. You don't have to do anything except win! So yeah, that's why Ogerpon rose and why it should be banned. I need a fucking break.
Up next, we have two A+ rises, Landorus Therian and Deoxys Speed. Lando dropped last shift, and now it's back up here. Offense is back, being a frequent sight in OLT, and Lando tends to be the ground type of choice on those builds. It's good at getting rocks up and keeping them up. Between Rocky Helmet sets to Choice Scarf, it has a lot to offer for offensive teams. It's one of our best options for scouting Dragonite, Zama, and Gambit. Of course, it still has to be wary of ice coverage from the former two. Dolls say that Ice Spinner Dragonite is less common these days, as people are on that Roost or Terra Blast craze, sometimes even both. Either way, it benefits Lando. And then Deoxys is a Swiss army knife that can do almost anything, from setting hazards, clicking knockoff, and being a valuable form of speed control. Nasty Plot has been a thing for about a year now, but only in 2025 has it seen more public attention. Very few things want to mess with a +2 Life Orb Deoxys. Even Glowking and Goldango have to fear Psycho Boost. And it has plenty of coverage for whatever it needs to hit, like Shadow Ball or Thunderbolt. You could see its impact on the tier with Hatterini's usage being as high as it is, being not only a solid Deoxys check, but also being one of the few Pokemon that can deny hazards from Deoxys. This one was actually a 2 sub-rank rise, which is really impressive. Speaking of 2 sub-rank rises, we have Tornadus Therian going from B+ to A tier. It has an excellent matchup into bulkier structures with either Taunt Knockoff or Nasty Plot sets, while its B tier keeps it relevant into more aggressive matchups. Assault Vest with adequate hazard control is excellent for pivoting around special hits, especially with special spam being popular to overwhelm Tanglu, since, got things like top 3 in the metagame. I covered it in depth in my last video, so check that out if you want more Torn T stuff. Up next, we have Walking Wake and Hatterini rising from B+ to A-. Sun is in a good spot right now, with recent innovations like Surledge, Solar Beam, Raging Bolt, and more experimentation with non-choice specs Walking Wake. Like I've seen Choice Scarf, sometimes I see Mystical Water. I've also ran Assault Vest, which lets you just tank Moonblasts, which is really funny. Walking Wake is also good independently from Sun as a knockoff abuser that could force Glowking to lose its item, which is difficult to do as most knockoff users scare it out. Like, I don't think Glowking wants to stay in on like a Great Tusk or a Samurott, The main reason for Hat's rise is because of its ability to make hazard setters second guess. This has enabled plenty of insane threats in the meta like D-Knight, Kyurem, Surledge, and has carried Sun and Veil teams for the longest time. It's also one of the best responses to Deoxys Speed, but that doesn't scratch the surface because Hat is also annoying to switch into, with Psychic Noise and Nuzzle in its arsenal. The 2 best sets for me is Assault Vest and Rocky Helmet Pain Split. The latter is just fucking evil, since with Pain Split you could beat things like Garganackle and Blissey long term. In short, Hatterini is good at making progress and good at denying progress. Up next, we have 3 B+ rises, Heatran, Alola Ninetales, and Surledge. Heatran Rising is an interesting one because everything about SVOU feels like it's trying to make its life miserable. We have like 5 fucking ground types, Wellspring is a war criminal, and it's a steel type that can't switch into Kyurem's Earth power at all. But the tables have slowly been turning for Heatran. For one, Hazard Stack is not as difficult to deal with these days. It has solid matchups into Gambit, Deoxys, Ceruledge, and Gholdengo. It's a rocker that 1v1s Hatterini and scares a lot of our hazard control. Some members of the VR Council voted it to A-, which I don't think it's at that level, but I do think it is worth bringing up a tier. It might even rise to OU in October, but we'll have to see. I didn't vote Alola Ninetales into B+, but I could respect those that did. World Cup saw a massive surge of Veil teams during the first round, and even during OLT it sees play. A particular example was this crazy Veil team Heatranator built that Ghoulish Champ was laddering with during his OLT run. Veil teams do have a tendency to be exploitable though. They rely on Alola Ninetales being alive as long as possible, and that can be difficult depending on the matchup. Like if the opponent manages to get rocks up or they have a Hisuian Samurott. Overrated, but a playstyle you have to take into account when building. Ceruledge got its claim to fame on Veil, Sun, and Webs, but recently found its footing on more standardized offenses. It's a physical sweeper that could 1v1 Zama, it's immune to extreme speed, pre-Terra, it has a handful of notable switch-in opportunities, and after a weak armor speed boost it outspeeds almost everything, and in case it doesn't, it has Shadow Sneak. Bulk Up is ruinous for balance. Not sure why I don't see it as often. With bulk investment, it becomes tough as hell to kill. It's probably its secret best set, but yeah. Ceruledge, as good as it is, isn't brainless. It's not something you could throw into the field and sweep with. You still need to consider positioning, you need to keep rocks off at all times. Ceruledge wants to be at 100%. Well, everything wants to be at 100%, but Ceruledge more so than a lot of other Pokemon. And any smart opponent isn't gonna simply let you proc weak armor. Like, what if instead of clicking Crunch with Zama, they swap into Darkrai, anticipating you to set up? That sort of thing. It's a perfect high-risk, high-reward sweeper with good coverage and surprisingly good bulk. So yeah. Alright, we have a big wave of B-tier rises. We got Torkoal, Tyranitar, Venusaur, Rabombi, and Excadrill, who rose 2 whole sub-ranks from C+ tier. Like I said, Sun is in a good spot right now. Your choice of setter depends on what you value more on your Sun team. Ninetales has Healing Wish, letting your Sun abusers stick for longer, especially versus Balance and Stall. Torkoal is a spinner that threatens Gholdengo and is tough to switch into if you run the good Torkoal set. Wink wink. T-Tar has seen some recent success during the OLT cycles, with or without Excadrill. You've probably seen this team, I think it was Zav that built it, which abandons the Spadef rock set and turns T-Tar into an all-out attacking wall breaker. It can be tough for a lot of teams to switch into with all that coverage, especially with Garchomp setting hazards for it. Similar to a lot of the other more niche wall breakers like Ursaluna, Volcanion, and Iron Hands, T-Tar has enough bulk to find opportunities to swap in or trade. Not to mention, Sand also breaks multiscale and forces chip damage. This is gonna be the third time I say Sun good. Venusaur provides 3 things for Sun. A switch into Wellspring, a pivot into Primarina, and a Toxic Spike Absorber. All 3 of these which Sun tends to struggle with. Venusaur has crucial resistances to Zamazenta's Body Press and Raging Bolt's Thunderclap, making it an effective wall breaker with Sun-boosted Weather Balls, especially with Terra. It does have to run Timid in this metagame, since without it, Booster Iron Moth and Valiant will outspeed it, but the loss in power doesn't matter in a lot of instances. Like +2 Weather Ball is still taking one-shots on a lot of things. I've come to the conclusion that Ribombee is on par with Arachnid, even though, spoilers, the Spider dropped a sub-rank. Ribombee does better against Dragonite and Raging Bolt, which are matchups Arachnid can struggle versus. It also has Skill Swap, so you could get Webs up for free against Hatterene. And then Excadrill. Here's the thing about Excadrill. The main draw of Excadrill is that it's great versus offense. Offense is a frequent sight at the moment, and like with Iron Treads, it has a positive matchup into most of the common spin blockers. But it's ass versus balance, like holy shit. Drill has plenty of checks, and most of them are on balance. It does benefit from Moltres being used less because Wellspring has made Corv and Zapdos the preferred bird, as they have the best matchup against it. But Moltres is still great. Anyways, yeah, Excadrill rose for those reasons. Not B tier for me, I think that's just too much of a stretch. Maybe B-, but we'll see in the future. Up next, Iron Boulder rose from C+ to B-. To give a little bit of background behind this, so during World Cup, VK was up against Mike. VK brought Iron Boulder. Iron Boulder was like King Von in that game, where it just completely demolished Mike's team. And ever since then, people have been on the Boulder hype train. It's small, but it's there. Same deal as Excadrill. Offense matchup good, balance matchup bad. Though, I'd argue Boulder is kinda shaky versus offense, since Lando, Gold, Gambit, and Zama are common sightings. I don't agree with this rise, but I could see why someone would look at this and say, yeah, that's on the same level as Superior. And then we have 3 C rank rises: Iron Jugulis, Chestnut, and Sandy Shocks. Iron Jugulis is a Pokemon that has risen to C tier. I've always respected Iron Jugulis because being a special attacker with Taunt and Knockoff is huge. You might have seen this team Lex highlighted on his channel. It's a pretty wacky screens team that uses Workup Taunt Jugulis with Terra Ghost to 6-0 stall. Well, kinda, cause Hurricane is garbage. It's funny that Chestnut has been going up a tier in every slate since it was added to the VR. Like I said last time, Spikes plus Knockoff is good roll compression. It's also a check to Wellspring, but it's the equivalent of taking painkillers and claiming that you don't have a fractured wrist, so I don't know about that one. Sandy Shocks, shockingly enough, isn't that bad. It has Spikes, it's a ground type, especially one that can switch into Zapdos comfortably. And of course, you could Terra Blast Ice to snipe Lando and Gliscor and whatnot. But terrestrializing a hazard lead isn't great, and its success during the home metagame has kind of backfired because no one in 2025 is going to be caught off guard by Terra Blast Ice Sandy Shocks. Up next, we have Magnezone and Ditto rising from D to C-. Magnezone was added to the VR when people were spamming Corviknight. Outside of that and trapping Gambit, it's kinda dead weight. The most common balance core on the OLT ladder right now is Glowking, Corv, and Tinglu, so Mag still has a reason to stick around in the VR just to trap this very solid defensive core. Ditto, it's Ditto in an offensive metagame. It's gonna rise in an offensive metagame. It revenge kills offensive threats and can help PP stall in the stall matchup. So, yeah. Now I'd like to talk about the 2 new additions to the VR, Mew and Slowking, the Johto version. Mew is a discount version of Deoxys Speed that trades speed for bulk and Will-O-Wisp to cripple dark types. Jotonian Slowking has a few things going for it over Galarian Slowking. It matches up better into ground types and Dragonite. Scald and T-Wave are tough to switch into. It also doesn't need to Terrasilize to check Walking Wake under Sun. So yeah, that was all the rises. Now onto the drops, kicking things off with Gliscor dropping from S- to A+. Alright, let's see what I put for Gliscor. Now, I've wanted Gliscor to drop to A+ since the last slate, because it hasn't been S- material for months, but I believe everyone in the VR Council this time voted it to drop. Players have gotten better at optimizing their matchup versus balance and stall archetypes, which Gliscor finds itself on. SD Gliscor is past its prime, with Galarian Weezing and Corviknight being common on balance structures. Tornadus coming to the forefront is really bad for it. Gliscor is still great. It's A+ for a reason, but S- prompted it up as this elite meta pick akin to Gholdengo and Kingambit, which it isn't, in my opinion. Dropping from A+ to A tier is Pecharunt. It's kind of funny, some people thought this was broken, and now it's dropped to A tier. Pecharunt is still a fantastic physical wall and one of the few splashable Wellspring checks, but it's been competing with Gholdengo as a spin blocker and Glowking as a pivot. Ultimately, people have been gravitating towards Gold since it's more offensively threatening, and you could never go wrong with having a Steel type in this metagame. And a side effect of this is that with Gholdengo being more popular, Pecharunt is more likely to not click Parting Shot so freely. So, still good, but Gholdengo is like top 2 in usage. So now we have Clefable and Hisuian Samurott dropping from A to A- tier. The structures Clefable fits on and the structures it's good against aren't the most popular right now. Its original placement was sort of a relic left behind from the Roaring Moon meta. Clefable doesn't check much notable besides Garganacl, and it can be overwhelmed by strong offensive presences like Wellspring. Samu has been competing with Wellspring, Glimmora, Tinglu, and Deoxys, making it tougher to fit onto teams. It also has fundamental issues with its bulk without investment and speed tier, which gets worse since most of the time you want to invest in bulk with Samurott. Still a good mon, as long as Gholdengo and Gambit are top 3, top 5 in usage, its defensive typing will always be valued. And it's a big fuck you to Hatterene, so there's that. Now we have 2 sub-rank drops, Tinkaton and Weavile both dropping from A tier to B+ tier. I thought Tinkaton was overly ranked from the previous slate, and the drop here is justified. Tinkaton has an awkward matchup into the elephants, so while it's good at getting rocks up, it has a hard time keeping them up. Its reliance on Balloon and lack of longevity means its matchup into bulkier structures is poor. That being said, Tinkaton could absolutely make a comeback in the near future. It checks Deoxys, it could set rocks for free versus Hatterene, and Fairy Steel is always useful in a format with many Fairy, Dragon, Ice, and Dark moves floating around. The structures Weavile is on aren't super popular right now. The speed control Weavile provides is overblown since a lot of fast sweepers either resist Ice Shard or could just Terra and blow Weavile up anyways. Garganacl usage is higher, and that's a tough matchup for Weavile teams to crack. Weavile will be back though, either if Boot Spam becomes the more popular playstyle again, or if builders get better at fitting the more scary sets like Life Orb or Band when paired with secure anti-hazard measures. Cause Banded Triple Axle or Knockoff isn't a joke. Offensive Kingambit takes like 35% from Banded Axle. Granted if it hits. Next we have a massive wave of Pokemon dropping from B+ to B tier. Meowscarada, Latios, Volcanion, Keldeo, and Skarmory. Meowscarada, this one feels wrong to me, because Meowscarada favors most of the current trends in the meta. Look at the list of the common leads in SVLU games, and you'll find that Scarf beats like 80% of them. which can net you easy momentum, and that's what Meowscarada is good at, taking momentum and hoarding it. Scarf Meow is great for bringing in your scary wall breakers like Kyurem to start wrecking shit early. Packing Trick so you could disrupt late game scenarios, like if you're up against a King Gambit but you're not sure what Terra it is, you could just trick it and you don't have to worry about it. Latios is an unfortunate victim of Hatterini's rise in usage, and its reliance on Terra can make it feel awkward to use as the player base becomes more conscious about Terra exhaustion. While Volcanion is still good for trading and general wall breaking, competition for especially offensive breakers is tough. Raging Bolt in particular both competes with it and 1v1s it comfortably. So yeah, it's rough up here for the Steam Monster, or whatever Volcanion is supposed to be. Now Keldeo, I could just show you this image and you could see why Keldeo fell off. Don't know why Skarmory rose to begin with. It drains momentum easily and it's very passive, which has not been favorable for the current meta. Next, we have Araquanid, Clodsire, Greninja, and Moltres Galar, who have all dropped from B to B- tier. As more players get better at playing around Araquanid, and as Rabombi becomes the preferred web setter, Araquanid has had a harder time. Again, like I said, I find both Araquanid and Rabombi to be on par with each other. It depends on what your web's team struggles versus. Stall has multiple variations, and Clodsire isn't on most of them. It obviously still has its place on Stall, but often you find Stall teams dropping Clodsire for unblockable defog, or spinning, or whatever war crimes Toxapex is up to. Greninja might be the unofficial mascot of my channel, but that doesn't dictate my bias on Greninja competitively. Like with Volcanion, it competes with a bunch of specially offensive threats. While it outspeeds most of the tier after a Battle Bond boost, oftentimes it gets one kill at best and gets taken out right after with the abundance of priority present in the tier. Maybe a new set will arise that will bring Greninja up a tier again, but we'll have to see. And then Goltris. On the structures it fits on, it's often not considered due to being very support reliant and Terra reliant. There are other sweepers like this, such as Surledge, but they offer higher reward when expending Terra, so Goltris dropped. Up next, we have Hydreigon, Among Us, and Hawktua dropping from B- to C+ tier. Unfortunately for the guy with 2 3s, not 3 3s, Hydreigon has been facing severe competition in its role as a wall breaker. The 3 main ones being Tornadus, Darkrai, and Latios. There is a chance it could come back into B- in the future. It switches into some rising threats like Surledge and Heatran, and you can't go wrong with being naturally immune to spikes. Amoonguss over here has held the niche of being the closest to a hard Ogerpon-Wellspring check, ignoring the fact that a +2 Terra Water Ivy Cudgel fucking melts it. But instead of investing in a Pokemon that's hard-walled by 80% of the tier just to check 1, players would rather run other checks like Pecharunt, D-Knight, or Sinistcha that provide more outside of the Wellspring matchup. Now this might be a shock to some of you because, wait, isn't Rillaboom making a comeback? Yes, Rillaboom is in a better spot right now, but players realized that they don't need to run Rillaboom with Hawlucha on grassy terrain. They could run it with any other mon that abuses the hell out of the terrain. Hawlucha's issue is that it isn't strong enough to get many crucial OHKOs after a boost. So anything with decent physical bulk can come in on it as it sets up and cripple it, or outright take the bird out. Especially Goldango, a Pokemon that's number 2 in usage currently during the time of recording this. A Pokemon that dual resists both of Hawlucha's stabs, and a Pokemon that commonly runs Scarf Trick or Nasty Plot with physical bulk. So yeah, Hawlucha is kinda fucked. And then Thundurus, Mandibuzz, and Lilligant Hisui, all of them dropping from C+ to C tier. Thunderous faces competition from Zapdos and Raging Bolt. Competition for special breakers in general is very fierce right now, like I've said multiple times. I think a bulky Nasty Plot set with Taunt and Terra Fury to hardwall Raging Bolt could have some merit, but right now, things aren't looking great for it. Mandibuzz. Being a dark type with Defog that loses to Goldango is a fucking embarrassment. Anyways, so Mandibuzz is a discount version of Corviknight that's forced to run heavy-duty boots. In return, it has knockoff and access to Toxic. As for why it dropped, no clue, honestly. I don't use Mandibuzz. I don't ever see it on the ladder, except when I run into Omar AP. So, your guess is as good as mine. You could talk about it in the comments if you want. And then Hisui and Lilligant. Has anyone seen this thing on a Sun team since 2024? It's not to say it has nothing going for it. It has Encore and Healing Wish, but oftentimes people resort to Venusaur as the Chlorophyllmon on Sun. Plus, both those things can be filled by Ninetales. To close things off, we have some unfortunate news. D rank has been removed through a private vote. We felt that D rank was misleading for new players that would think the Pokemon within them are generally viable. Here's a special tribute to the fallen soldiers who may not be viable, but they are viable in our hearts. Rest in peace. That was the latest viability ranking slate. What are your thoughts? Are you happy about the new changes, or does seeing Clodsire being treated unfairly hurt your soul? Thank you for watching, and remember, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Like how players spam subtext Kiram during every single OLT season. Oh.